Hey guys, Mr. Price here to read our next chapter of the Cay. We just finished chapter 8, and in that chapter, Timothy had built a hut for the two castaways, and he had also uh, caught some langosta, those lobster-like creatures, and they were going to eat those. And then the two went down to the beach to try and arrange rocks to spell out the word help. And in doing so, Philip discovered that Timothy couldn't read or write. He had to spell out help for him and write it in the sand so that Timothy could arrange the rocks accordingly. And what we saw was Philip kind of used that little bit of knowledge to hold it over Timothy for that second that he had that power over him. And it wasn't a great display of character. This next chapter, chapter 9, it's a little rough. It's hard for me to read at times, although it's kind of short. Some of it is kind of sensitive, and the things that I read in it, I read for effect of the story. I want you to know that. So although you may not agree with some of the things being said, and I certainly hope you don't, just know that it's for a purpose of the plot. So here we go. Chapter 9. In the afternoon, Timothy said we'd make a rope. On the north end of the island, tough vines, almost as large as a pencil, were laced over the sand. It took us several hours to tear out a big pile of them. Then Timothy began weaving a rope that would stretch all the way down the hill to the beach and fire pile. The rope was for me. If he happened to be out on the reef and I heard a plane, I could take a light from our campfire, follow the rope down, and touch off the big fire. The vine rope would also serve to get me safely down to the beach. After we'd torn the vines out, and he was weaving the rope, he said, "Young boss, you must begin to help with the other work." We were sitting up by the hut. I had my back to a palm and was thinking that back in Willemstad at this moment, I'd probably be sitting in a classroom, 3 desks away from Henrik, listening to Herr Jonkier talk about European history. I'd been tutored in Dutch the first year in Willemstad so I could attend the regular school. Now I could speak it and understand it. My hands were tired from pulling the vines, and I just wanted to sit and think. I didn't want to work. I said, "Timothy, I'm blind. I can't see to work." I heard him cutting something with his sharp knife. He replied softly, "The hand is not blind." What do you think he means by that? And I just want to pause for a second also and kind of point out here, Timothy has been doing all these things. He built this hut. He went and caught all these fish. He helped tear out these vines. He's now weaving this rope. And he says that Philip needs help with some other work. And Philip's response is, "I'm blind. I can't see to work." You know, it's just not a great attitude already right there at the start. So, continuing. "Timothy, I'm blind. I can't see to work." I heard him cutting something with a sharp knife. He replied softly, "The hand is not blind." Didn't the old man understand? To work, aside from pulling up vines or drawing something in the sand, you must be able to see. Stubbornly, he said, "Young boss, we need sleeping mats. You can make the mats." I looked over in his direction. "You do it," I said. He sighed back, saying, "The best map maker in Charlotte Tamale, down in Frenchtown. Be total blind." But he's a man, and he has to do that to make a living. "Be true," Timothy said quietly. What do you think Timothy is thinking right there when Philip says he has to do that to make a living? I mean, what are they doing out there on the Cay? They're out there on the Cay, and they might not be doing something to make a living with money. They're definitely doing stuff to survive and make a living. "Be true," Timothy said quietly. But in a few minutes, he placed several lengths of palm fiber across my lap. He really was a black mule. The palm mat is very easy. just over and under. Becoming angry with him, I said, I tell you, I can't see. He paid no attention to me. Take this hand, hold the palm like this, then over and under, like the man in Frenchtown, then more palm. I could feel him standing there, watching me as I tried to reeve the lengths, but I knew they weren't fitting together. He said, like this, I tell you, and reached down to guide my hand. Over and under. I tried again, but it didn't work. I stood up, threw the palm fibers at him, and screamed, You ugly black man, I won't do it. You're stupid. You can't even spell. I'm going to pause right there. Again, both his thought shots earlier where he said those things about Timothy or thought those things and made the comment about a mule, and then saying that to him directly, it's awful. And I think it's really hurtful, and it gives me a really bad feeling about Philip. It is a poor display of character because Timothy has been holding everything together and taking care of him, giving him the biggest pieces of fish, putting him first in almost every situation. And for Philip to say something like that, it's just so disgraceful. Anyways, continue. You're stupid. You can't even spell. Timothy's hand struck my face sharply. Stunned, I touched my face where he'd hit me. Then I turned away from where I thought he was. My cheek stung, but I wouldn't let him see me with tears in my eyes. I heard him saying very gently, Be getting back to work my own self. I sat down again. He began to sing that Fungian fish song in a low voice, and I could picture him sitting on the sand in front of the hut, that tangled gray hair, that ugly face, those great hands winding strands of vine, a rope. I thought, it wasn't for him. It was for me. After a while, I said, Timothy? He did not answer, but walked over to me, pressing more palm fronds into my hands. He murmured, "'Tis very easy, over and under." Then he went back to singing about fungi and fish. Something happened to me that day on the Cay. I'm not quite sure what it was even now, but I had begun to change. I said to Timothy, I want to be your friend. He said softly, Young boss, you have always been my friend. I said, Can you call me Philip instead of young boss? Philippe, he said warmly. One of the things that I think is really great in reading stories is experiencing the change that characters undergo. A lot of times it's not explicit. That means it's not something that's told to you directly, but you observe it throughout a tale. Characters respond to things that happen, and it causes them to change and grow in certain ways, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. In this case, we see it both in the actions where we have that thought shot where Philip thinks the rope wasn't for him, it was for me. And he's starting to have that appreciation for Timothy and that understanding that this guy is doing all these things for me. And that self-reflection that he just talked to him in such a way. And clearly he doesn't feel great about it. And he says that, he wants to be his friend. But I think what's even more profound is Timothy's response that, young boss, you have always been my friend. Timothy never had any negative thoughts about Philip, about the way he looked or anything like that. He's just always treated Philip as a friend. And with that response, he continues to do so, even despite Philip saying that horrific thing. So it's a heavy chapter. There's a lot going on, even though the actual reading was kind of short. I'm sorry if this was offensive to anybody. I think it was necessary, though, to reach that point where we have that line that something happened to me that day on the Cay. I'm not quite sure what it was even now, but I had begun to change. So that's good. Maybe Philip can be redeemed. We'll see. Thanks for listening. Remember to complete your exit ticket. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.